Got it.
Hello.
Hi, Mary.
Sorry, my computer froze up on me.
Turn up the heat.
Yes. Steve Robinson, nice seeing you on the call.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Good seeing you too.
If you want to start, Mary, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Well, let's start with Greg. How about some Hanukkah?
Well, little philosophy, of course, in very trying times. I'll give you a quick minute here. A couple thousand years ago, there was a revolt of the Syrian, the Greeks against the Jews and our ancestors knew about it, I'm sure. And so the temple was destroyed in Jerusalem, and it was liberated, though. And so Hanukkah became, thank you, Hanukkah became a celebration of hope, and also for the looking forward to light over darkness, as this shows. And so that's really where we're at today. Tonight we will light our 8th candle of light, and I'll explain to the grandkids again, among their presence, that this is about freedom, and we're certainly living that right now. And I won't go any further. Thank you, and happy holidays to everyone. May morality and tolerance overcome evil. Thank you.
Nicely said. Thank you, Greg. So this past Saturday was the radiothon for the Salvation Army at the Sullivan Hardware store. All there, we ring bells, we were answering the phones with pledges. $1 bill to stuff into the kettles, which a lot of them did. If you remember, this year is the first year we sponsored an hour. We sponsored with a $4,000 donation, and we were joined with that hour with the Kiwanis Club of Northwest Indianapolis for the 9 o'clock hour. Jeff, I'm going to mess up his name, Jeff Gambaccini from the Northwest Club, and their club has been involved for 22 years. We've had some longstanding volunteers also: Don Steele, Bill Murphy, Trent Cowles, Nancy Aldrichs, Jay Brill, Karen Burns, Jackie, Mike Halstead, Ted, Pat McCrory, Carol Overson, and Russ Shelberton. They've all continued in our mission to help the youth through the Salvation Army and their radiothon program. I also want to thank Graham. Thank you very much for joining Terry Stacy on WIBC for an on-air interview. Pat Sullivan and Denny Smith got a kick out of saying Kiwanian as one would expect. Their usual back and forth banter as hosts of the Home and Garden show every Saturday morning. When they announced the Kiwanis Foundation of Indianapolis $4,000 gift just prior to the 10 a.m. Start on Saturday, already we had $210,000 worth of pledges, and at the end of the day we ended up with $436,000 goal, which was well, we did more than 436,000, which was the goal. We raised 460,000. So thank you, Graham, for spurring us on and being our cheerleader on the air. The link to Graham's on-air interview is in the chat box on our website. Just remember, this Friday, final bell ringing, 15th of the month from 3 to 7, with Bill Du Bois and Graham Honecker, Mike Halstead, Don and Allison Steele, Roger and Lonnie Cummins, and I'll be there as well. So if you need some groceries at Kroger, come on over on Binford Boulevard, say hi, and put some money in the kettle. If you haven't dropped off a gift yet, if you'd like to still do that for Radiothon, remember we're in a little friendly competition with Rotary, so you can still write a check and send it to the office, or do the virtual kettle on our chat box. We accept money in various ways, and we don't care how we get it, as long as we do, because it's all for a good cause. All right, moving on. Abe Lincoln, we have 21 students this year. We will be interviewing them on January 13th at Butler. Thank you, Graham, again, for getting us the Stanley K. Lacey building for doing that. And then remember, on February 9th, please mark your calendar. This is when the luncheon will be, and the committee still needs some help. So if you're coming to the luncheon, if you could let Wendy know that you're willing to help in any way possible, I'm sure she will be happy to put you to work. Chuck, are you on the call? Maybe not. Okay. Well, let's go into the football awards. We had 250 guests, and it was held at the Colts Gridiron Hall last Thursday, the 67th annual Marion County Football Awards. Colts Great Player announced by Laura Overton, who's the Colts cheerleaders, the DJ and City Barbecue were all present, and the food was fabulous. Thanks to Roger Cummings, Bill Du Bois, Rob Schlegel, Eric Steele, and of course Chuck, who ran the program, as well as others who sponsored the tables, including Katie Harris, Mary Marsh, Mike Halstead, Trent Cowles, Duke Haddad, and Steve Farrow. So your time, your talent, and your treasure are all needed, as you know, for Kiwanis. And so thank you for all of those who focused your funds and your talent toward this wonderful program. Roger, can you talk about Lunch Bunch?
Sure can. Next Monday, the 18th, we're meeting at Iozo's again for lunch at 11:30, about 1. We've got a nice group already lined up. I think 17 or 18 people.
Good.
A potential new member is hoping to join us. I was hoping to see her on the program today, but I don't. I'll follow up with her, but yeah, come out anytime. Third Monday of each month after this year. We'll try to keep on that schedule as much as we can. Great food, great friends. Come on down.
Good time to kibitz. Okay, is Kevin Thacker from Circle K here?
Hi.
Oh, great, there you are. I'd like to invite the president, Kevin Thacker, to provide an update on the IU Indy Circle K. So Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're studying, what your plans are after college, and what Circle K has been up to this past semester.
Yeah, first I just want to say thank you to Mary and Kelly for having me, and also to the club for your financial support and just moral support over the years and this year as well. Yeah, so my name's Kaveen. I'm actually graduating next week from IU Indy with my bachelor's, but I'm also doing a master's there as well. So I'm sticking around there and as president of the Circle K Club. So after COVID, unfortunately, our club is a little bit down in membership, but we're looking to rebuild. So we've had a few events this year. In September, we met with a couple other clubs in the district to go over some officer training. So that was, I believe, the first in-person district event in a while. So it was really good to meet up with a bunch of other Circle K members across the state. Then in October, we had a trivia night. So that was good to have some fun and engage. That was around Halloween time. Oh, wow. Yeah, there it is. And then early November, we had our 12 hours of service event. That's kind of our signature event. So basically, we try to partner with some organizations and have one really jam-packed day full of service. Yeah, as for me personally, I was involved in Key Club for all 4 years of high school here in the Chicagoland area. So that was a really great time, and that's why I joined Circle K once I got to college. But yeah, I still am close with my sponsoring Kiwanis club here at home, and I still visit them from time to time. So I appreciate your sponsorship and your support as well.
And I apologize for messing up your first name. So there you go. So what are you studying? What's your area of study?
Oh, yes, I missed that part. I'm studying informatics and human computer interaction. So basically focused on making technology easier to use. And from my interactions with my Kiwanis club, I know we actually had a recurring event called tech tutoring, where we would help our fellow Kiwanians, try to work with technology and solve any issues they may have.
We can never do with tech anymore. So thank you for getting into that area of study. And I wish you well. And thank you so much for your leadership with Circle K. And congratulations on graduating this semester.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you all for having me.
I'd like to introduce a grant recipient, Footlite Musicals. Footlite Musical Board member Etta Balloon and Bunny Uggan Davis, to provide an update on the $2,500 grant from the Kiwanis Foundation for their summer youth program, which is a 2-week day camp for 6 to 12-year-olds and 8-week young artist program and musical production. Etta?
Well, greetings to everybody today. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm a member of Footlite's development committee, so our job is to basically obtain grants from throughout the community. And I worked on the Kiwanis grant with Kelly, and we were so grateful to get this. Just want to give you a little bit of background about what the grant financed. Footlite Musicals runs a summer program for kids. The first component of it is a summer camp, and it's a 2-week program, and essentially they learn the main components of putting on a musical performance for, at the sort of like rudimentary level. The second part of the program is for kids who are ages 13 to 18, and it's designed to bring kids together from all over Indianapolis to learn the craft of acting and performing. Program's been in existence since about the 1970s, and although many of the participants in the program are involved in their school's theater productions, many of them have never been involved in any form of theater arts before applying to our program. So it's a particularly interesting way of basically leading them into the art and getting them to learn how to the full aspects of production. So this summer, I'm going to try and share my screen here if I can. Oh, it says host has disabled participant screen sharing. Can I?
Yep, you're a co-host now.
Oh, okay. Let's see, where is where is it? Well,
you should be able to go down to the bottom. It should say share screen.
Yeah, I've got that, except I'm not, for some reason, I'm not getting what I want to share. Okay, hang on. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So these are some photos of the summer camp program. The kids did a 2-week camp, and they did Frozen the musical. They learned songs, dances, scenes, and many other theater skills. And we believe the camp instilled a passion in the arts for them, while also providing a safe space for them to express themselves creatively. So these are some photos of the program, the final performance that's culminated at the end of the 2-week program. So those are photos from the camp, the 2-week camp. The young artist program that for the ages 13 to 18, the program kicked off basically in June, and that program teaches them all aspects of theater production, including acting, dancing, singing, as well as technical aspects of set design, lighting, and costumes. So this summer was no exception. They started out with auditioning, and after casting, the group rehearsed for about 2 months, learning their lines, songs, and dance numbers, and they ultimately performed a fabulous production of Godspell. So here's some of the photos from that show. Very large cast, wonderful program. I was member of the staff for that, so I saw firsthand the benefit of the grant for these kids. It was really they learned pretty much the beginning, you know, a whole production from beginning to end, including striking the set at the end and putting everything away. So here's our last photo. So that I think I'll stop share. So that is basically a recap of the program from this summer. I can't tell you how grateful we are for the support from Kiwanis this past year. It was really a godsend and very helpful to us to get that program rolling, and just really appreciate it. Thank you.
Etta, thank you so much for what you do in helping children on their creative side. I wish I had something like this when I was that age. Thank you, and continue to do great work in theater with young children. Congratulations.
Thanks so much. Appreciate your support.
You're welcome. I'm going to turn the program over to Graham Honecker to introduce our speaker. Graham?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Before I begin, I thought we might take just a moment of silence. We lost George McGinnis today. If you know, George was a ABA Hall of Famer, great player at IU, but did a lot in the Indianapolis community. And I know was a friend of our guest here, and I'm sure some of you have met him over the years. But let's just take a moment of silence to remember George McGinnis. Okay, thank you. This program I'm really looking forward to, because this guy has a great story. He's been I consider him a friend. I don't know if that feeling is mutual, but I consider him a good friend here. And you know, on occasion, you get so much joy from seeing someone take a big step in their career. And when I got the news of his hire a few months back, I was just elated. I've served with him. We'll talk about this briefly, but on a volunteer committee, and was just thrilled when Luke Bosso was named Director of Athletics at IUPUI, which is now, is it IUI now, Luke? Tell me.
We go with the full Indianapolis, IU Indianapolis.
IU Indianapolis. Okay, I'm going to get this down. Previously, he served as Managing Director of Government Advisory with Katz, Sapper, and Miller. Began his career with IU Sports Properties and Learfield Sports. Prior roles include Deputy Chief of Staff for the Indiana Department of Child Services, Senior Policy and Operations Director for Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb, and Chief of Staff for the Indiana Economic Development Corp. He is the chair of the local organizing committee, or was, for the Horizon League's basketball tournaments, and that's where I got to know him, and is on the 2024 NBA All-Star Game committee. So that means I'm going to send all these people asking me for tickets to you, because I don't know of any that exist. He's also on the board of directors for the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, and is a trustee with the Indianapolis Zoological Society. Named to IBJ's 40 under 40 class of 2022, which, by the way, the best part of that honor is it means you're under 40. It's a great honor, but, you know, technically you're under 40. Recipient of the 2019 Young Alumni Award from Franklin College's Pulliam School of Journalism, and also received a Sagamore the Wabash from Governor Holcomb. Usually it takes them like 80 years to achieve all this. So, but Luke, welcome. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here, and I do consider you a friend, so we're on the same level there.
There's one for me. So we're going to do a Q&A and then open it up to our audience. I love non-traditional paths to careers, and historically, and I'm sure many of you know this, 30, 40 years ago, athletic directors tended to be the old ball coach, the old basketball coach, the football coach. He or she would retire, then they'd get moved into that role. We've really seen a change in that, where folks are coming from athletics fundraising or compliance or some form of the athletic department career. Now we're seeing non-traditional hires, folks who have had experience in athletics but may not have followed that traditional path. Luke, can you talk about how this opportunity opened up and how you engaged with IU Indianapolis? And in a good way, it was surprising to many that you were named to this position.
Yeah. So I often tell people, Graham, non-traditional for 49 other states, traditional for Indiana on the path, right? So as Graham mentioned, I was the chair of the local organizing committee for the Horizon League basketball tournament, and really got to know the league and everybody involved. And I tell people when I was called and asked to apply, it was so not on my radar that I didn't even know the position was open. And
real quick, Luke, sorry to,
yeah.
Can everybody mute themselves, please? We got some background feedback. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So I didn't even know the position was open. But I'm from Indianapolis. So I grew up on the north side of Indy. I went to North Central High School. I Franklin College graduate and lived here my entire life. And I often tell people I didn't see myself as an athletic director to begin with, but I certainly only want to be the athletic director in the in my home city, in my home state. And as you all can tell, I have an economic development background. And as we transition to IU Indianapolis, I know how great this institution has been at sports. From 1980 until 2010, really had a great historic run and when it comes to basketball. And when I saw the challenges in front of me, when people told me about the position, I was like, gosh, this would be something I really want to do. And I was lucky enough that I was able to call, Fred Glass and Drax Swarbrick and Mark Miles and guys who had similar paths to me and said, hey, should I go do it? And they said, you did the political thing, that can have a lot of returns, but if you can go win and turn out great student athletes at IUPUI, it's going to be the most fulfilling thing you do.
That's awesome. The interview process, did you get, and I guess, have you gotten any? I know there's been a lot of excitement, enthusiasm around you getting the job. Has there been any skepticism? I mean, obviously, without naming names, that, hey, this guy hasn't been an athletic director. You're laughing, so I'll let you roll from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Our external communications director is on this call, Ed. So he may run down and kick me when I tell this story. Everybody that wasn't internal to Indianapolis or Indiana was skeptical, right? So even the search firm, because I had to go through the full process, were kind of like, why would you want to do this? Which little did they know with that questioning had just made me want to have the position more. But I think that's one of the things, and you see in athletics in the ever-changing landscape of Division I athletics, we have to get people that have a little different experiences to come to the athletic departments, because our athletic budget is in the teens of millions of dollars. Ohio State's 261 million. And we're all playing in the same group. And so today's athletic director is far more about fundraising and sponsorships than it is, maybe it was 20 years ago, where it was just looking after student athletes or, kind of keeping the ship in the right direction. This is an external fundraising position. It's an external excitement position. And we have to go out and tell our story every day. Because I am fearful, as we talk about what the NCAA looks like in 5 or 6 years, that everybody's going to say, hey, these Power 5 schools are great. But when you think about the mid-majors and all the other athletes we have, I get worried that their sports are no longer going to be around, right? We'll always have a world where we'll have football and basketball. But we have 268 student athletes. So that means we have about 225 that don't play basketball at the school. And, we have to make sure we're always out advocating and pushing for them, which is what I see my job as, pushing for our entire athletics department.
Obviously you've got talented, a lot of skill. You have been in the athletics realm, sponsorship realm, although we missed you right now on the Horizon League committee, although we're halfway through our goal.
There you go.
We want to share that. Obviously, though, there's a big learning curve. Who you mentioned a couple, I know you've had some great mentors. Who have you really leaned on in your first few months in terms of getting advice and learning?
Yeah, Fred Glass has been incredibly helpful. I send Fred notes from time to time, and it's more of like, hey, am I going to embarrass myself if I do this, right? Or, should I do this? And he's been helpful. Ed and our team has been here 21 years. He has been extremely helpful. And, it's kind of funny, Graham, you mentioned earlier, like the naysayers, there are a lot of people that are like, you're not going to be able to get to know people in sports. You're not going to be able to get to know people in sports. But in Indianapolis, there's so many people that have been involved in sports that are helpful, from Jim Morris. I mentioned Mark Miles and Doug Bowles. They've been really helpful. The Pacers as a whole. I mean, the first week on the job, the VP of corporate sales for the Pacers reached out and said, hey, let me tell you sponsors that I think you guys can get as well, which is incredibly helpful. And then Kevin Lennon at the NCAA, the head of Division I athletics for the NCAA, he has been great. And I'm forgetting people, but the amount of help that I've sometimes I feel guilty that I can't utilize all the help I'm getting, but it's been great that so many people have reached out and offered the help.
That's awesome. And my opinion might be that that's something a search firm can't necessarily put their finger on, is how many connections you have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's harder. I don't know where the search firm is from, but if they're not from this area, it's maybe hard to gauge how beneficial that has been for you. Next question. I was surprised when I came to Butler 11 years ago that we really, and I think we made some strides here, didn't have as great a footprint in the Indianapolis community. It was like we were kind of in this little bubble here at Butler. I know you're excited about the potential building on relationships, partnerships in Indianapolis, whether someone's gone to IUI or not. Can you talk about that for me?
Yeah. So we've added 20 new sponsors since I've started. And one of my goals has been that we need to be a focal part of the city. And I was really surprised with our lack of connection, right? It's funny. It's like West Street, there's some wall, right? You pass West Street, you don't feel like you're in downtown Indy anymore. Go to the other side, you don't feel like you're on the IU Indianapolis campus. But we have to be more involved in the city. Frankly, one of my recruiting strategies that we've talked to our coaches about is we need to recruit more Indiana kids. I think if you look up and down our rosters, we're still not seeing enough Indiana kids here. And we want to create that connection that if we have a North Central kid that's here, which our best player in our soccer team this year was from North Central, that people are coming to see him because they know the North Central connection, but also they're coming to see him because he's an intern at Shield Sexton, or he was a part of Indy Downtown Inc. Cleanup Day. We kicked off our year this year with doing a downtown cleanup, and it was great in some ways, as bad in others, that some of our student athletes, like, this is the first time I've ever been in downtown Indy. And I want us to have the mentality, and this is no disrespect to Butler. Graham knows I have a ton of respect for him, but I want us to be the city university. When you think of Indianapolis, I want you to think of IU Indianapolis, and I want our student athletes to have that mentality. I want our athletic staff to have that mentality. And for us to get there, we have to be out and about in the community every day.
You mentioned Fred Glass. One other person who I have great respect for that I wanted to ask, because I believe you probably had to interview with him, but is Quinn Buckner. Can you talk about Quinn and his role in your hire? And he did tell me you better do a damn good job because he's got his fingerprints a bit on this. Can you talk about?
Yeah.
And also some of these guys, we've looked up to from, you're kind of like me, a big sports fan. What was that like, saying, I've known this guy all my life?
Well, you censored what he actually said to me when I got the job about I better do a certain type of job. No, so it's my interview with Quinn was interesting. So to kind of walk you back, the week I interviewed, my wife and I were going on vacation at the end of the week. So I get an email at 5:30 a.m. on a Friday. My wife and I are down in Florida, and it's like, Quinn Buckner is going to call you. It'll be the final interview. There was no timetable put on it. So all day, every time the phone rings, I think it's Quinn, and it's no way to be on vacation. But finally we set up a time, and half hour before the interview, my wife texts me and she's like, "Are you nervous?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm a diehard Pacer fan. And if I fail this interview with Quinn Buckner for 41 games, I'm going to have to listen to him call, or I guess 82 games. Sorry. I'm going to have to listen to him broadcast the Pacer games. And I'm going to be so annoyed that I didn't get it." Yeah, so we finally did the interview. He was great. He's been really supportive with Jim Morris, but the interview question, he was the only one along the way that said, "Hey, you don't know compliance. You don't know the academic side. What are you going to do?" And I said, "Quinn, we're really good at that stuff right now. So I'm just going to make sure the people that, make sure we're 95th percentile in academics and make sure we haven't been in trouble with the NCAA for the last 12 years. I'm just going to keep them on the staff." And he goes, "That's a great answer." And then he told me Pam Whitten's going to make the final decision, but I had his sign off and moved ahead, and he's been supportive, but he's been like everybody else, and I'm not going to run from it. We have to get better in basketball. And when he makes those comments to you and to me, Graham, he's talking about basketball. And but in this city, in this state, where you can call a guy like Quinn Buckner to ask for basketball advice, he's a great guy to be able to have at your fingertips.
Yeah, it goes again back to my point about search firms and some of the things they may not realize. Can you talk about the whole realignment with IU, what was once IUPUI, just a 30,000 foot, general synopsis of that, but then how does it affect the athletic department there?
Yeah, it's funny. I've grown up in Indianapolis my entire life, and I couldn't explain to you what IUPUI was. And I think that's been a problem. And when I got on campus, Michael Huber, who's a SVP here and a good friend of mine, he goes, "Luke, it was just a non-compete." And he said that's the way to look at it. It was always a 95% funded IU institution. Everybody here is an IU employee. And now Purdue has some ability to do some things here that's an extension from West Lafayette. And now IU has two main campuses, Bloomington and Indianapolis. From a recruiting standpoint, it's going to be so much easier because I can explain IU and I can explain Indianapolis, and you put those two brands together. It's going to be fantastic. We're really excited about it. And we're going through the branding right now. That's been, it's a little bit of a challenge when you're trying to keep part of your identity, but build something new. The only place it's really a struggle for is we have about 24-ish student athletes who are on the Purdue track. And they'll have to switch over or get a waiver from the NCAA to be able to remain eligible. So that's a unforeseen event that you're going to go through in these type of transitions. But the official name change will take place June of next year. You had to wait 1 year for the non-compete ending. You're going to see us really lean into Indianapolis from a logo standpoint, from a city standpoint, and everything else that we're doing in the athletics department.
It's awesome. I think the only negative is the ooey pooey term, is going away, which is unfortunate.
We're happy to see that go away.
Talk to me about what an average day's been like for you so far. I mean, I can only imagine, being thrown into the fire, and hopefully things will settle down at some point. But I imagine you're not working 40 hours a week. Hopefully your wife is okay with that right now. But what's an average day been like for you?
Yeah, it's it's 6 months on the job. So I'm not sure I've had an average day yet. But I always try to focus a little bit on fundraising, focus on sponsorships, make sure we're fulfilling our obligations there. There's no secret. When I got here, the office was really internal facing. And like I mentioned, we're great on academics. We're great on compliance. So I'm letting them work and really focusing everybody else on being external facing. We have a new saying around here: work hard, make noise, have fun. And those cost $0, right? Cost zero money to outwork your opponents. doesn't cost any money to have people talking about you, and we should be having fun every day because we get to work in athletics. So really reinforce that, and really shift the mindset that we are running a multi-million-dollar business. Every dollar we bring in is going right back in the athletics department, so that gives our student athletes better experiences, gives them better food, gives them better travel. So really shifting the focus from that. And then something that nobody ever thinks about, because every day I come in, I have 10 things I want to get done, but by the time it's done, I have 15 things I didn't know I had to deal with, and didn't get to those 10 things. But our relationship with our coaches is so important, and something that I've really tried to bridge the gap on. There's 363 Division I programs in the country, and our coaches are great. But as you can imagine, Division I coaches do come with great attitudes, but also a little bit of ego. So we're always spending time working those relationships and making sure they know that I care, and the expectation is for them to win, and win on the field, in the classroom, in the community. And the question is going to be, how are we going to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that gets done? So I reinforce that every day with them, one way or another.
That's awesome. That leads to my next question, because again, known a lot of coaches over the years, great people, but they do have, let's say, a lot of them are self-assured. How has that been coming in? You're this young guy, and I imagine some of the coaches at IU Indy have been there for a long time. First part of the question, how has that been? Second part is, what's your leadership style? And have you had anybody that you've modeled your leadership style after? I guess that's 3 questions.
Yeah. So I'm one of the youngest ADs in the country, somewhere either second or third youngest. So there was some excitement and skepticism. From a coaching standpoint, I try to meet them where they are. We do have some newer coaches. I spend a good portion of the day on the coach's side every day, just catching up, see how things are going, get to know them, get to know their family. And it's to get them kind of in the mindset that they can come ask me for things, or we're going to do things differently. It's taken some time, rightfully so, because it's never been a focus before. But from a leadership standpoint, somebody that I've modeled myself after, Graham, his name is Earl Good. He's the governor's chief of staff. I don't know how many know him. He was the former president of GTE, chief of staff for Mitch Daniels, now chief of staff for Eric Holcomb. And Earl had a philosophy, every day you got to, remove the barriers and go find solutions. And I think in the way we're set up here at IU Indianapolis, and in all small mid-majors as a whole, there's a lot of perceived barriers to winning. But the reality is, if you're recruiting the right players and you have the right philosophy, you're going to win. So I try to stay out of the day-to-day coaching standpoint. I may ask coaches what we're doing, but I don't get into the X's and O's. I think they appreciate that. I also, I'm helping them with whatever they need. I always tell them, I'm there to break the tie. I hope they're the ones making the decisions on what's going on. But I will tell a quick story about, learning as this job goes. First hire I made was our women's volleyball coach. And we had a 4-game tournament, or 4-day tournament, 4 games. And I'm a novice volleyball person. So we're hitting serves into the net, unforced errors. I'm getting a little frustrated. But we win 3 of the 4 games. So I go talk to the coach, and I'm like, gosh, it has to be killing you having these unforced errors, right? And he goes, no, Luke, there's these different spots on the floor where if you serve them to those spots, it's the hardest for them to return. And we have to be really good on that. And if we're not, we don't really have a chance to win the point. So he showed me, and he's like, also, here's comparative, what other teams are doing. And we're actually right in the middle. So a lot of this stuff, Graham, too, I'm just trying to learn from them on what they're trying to do philosophically. So then when somebody is in the stands and they're like, gosh, we hit the ball in the net a lot. I'm like, no, actually, we're not trying to hit it in the net. We're trying to serve it in the most difficult spot. So this is part of the game plan. So it's been a lot of learning from them as well.
Awesome. I'll ask just a couple more questions, then we'll open it up to the audience. Kelly will get mad at me, but I'm really not plugging my books here. I'm just saying the first 2 books that we wrote, one of the big themes was the alignment between the athletic department and the academic side of the university. Can you talk about that dynamic and your approach to alignment?
Yeah, I think this is actually the first time I've ever received questions from somebody where I've read their books. So crossing that off the list here. Yeah, I mean, it's there are three barriers we have to break down here. And the community barrier, we have to get out there, the student athlete barrier, and the other one is the institutional barrier. You know, because of the transition from not just IUPUI to IU Indianapolis, but from this campus becoming less and less of a commuter campus every day, you have to figure out ways to get more ingrained into the academic side of it. It's been a little bit of a struggle, mostly because before me, people weren't trying it. I also think there is this on this campus, and I give a lot of friends a hard time. You know, they'll be McKinney law grads. And I said, "Oh, great, you're an IU Indianapolis alum." They said, "No, we're I'm an IU alum." And I said, "Well, no, Mauer's in Bloomington, so they're the Bloomington. You are Indianapolis." And we have to get some of the schools more comfortable with that. Somebody once asked, they said, "Hey, what do you want your legacy to be when this job is all said and done?" And I want to be the athletic director that figures out how do we get more and more students to come to our games. We need to get 1,000, 1,500 students to our games each night, especially on basketball, if we really want to turn this into a great college experience and have some of the success that we've read about in your books before, Graham.
Appreciate that. This is probably an obvious one that I think every athletic director is getting. College athletics right now is crazy with NIL, which, if you're not familiar with that term, is name, image, and likeness. It's the ruling that student athletes can now be compensated. And then the transfer portal, which is just insane. I think I read this yesterday where Texas is playing for the national championship and a guy is already transferring and won't play in the game because he needs a better situation for himself, which blows my mind. Your thoughts overall, and then how I mean, I know at Butler, NIL is a major challenge for us. Just take me through your thoughts on those two.
Yeah, well, you know, I think a lot of things I'll start with the portal. A lot of people assume the portal is just football and basketball. Our top 5 soccer players were in the portal this year. Now, few of them had COVID years, so it's a little bit misleading, but I mean, it's every sport, and it's not the kids making the decisions. It's somebody in their ear saying, "Hey, go in the portal. You can go somewhere else, or you can go to a Power 5, or you can go play, you know, if you did this and those type of things." So it's a problem. And you know, I'll be the first one. Probably the biggest change in this job. I was the first one 8 months ago to blame the NCAA for a lot of things. I think the NCAA was put in a rock and a hard place, maybe because of their lack of doing stuff. But I don't think we ever envisioned a scenario where people were going to college, not liking it based on their playing time, and then leaving because a senior was in front of them. So we have to do something to fix that. And I would love to see, and yesterday's legal ruling, not to go to it, is allowing a lot more transfers to happen. But we have to, one, from a life lesson, tell kids just because you go somewhere and the first 6 months aren't great, that you should immediately leave. Right? That's not good from a workforce standpoint. It's not good from a education standpoint. We know data shows that for every time you transfer, your GPA drops, and significantly drops. As far as NIL, you know, Graham, if somebody came to me today, if one of you on the call feels great enough and says, "Hey, I want to give you $300,000, and you can use it for NIL or you can use it for something else," the first thing I would use it is to fully fund athletic scholarships. You know, I at our level, there are some schools doing NIL, but there's also we have a system called Open Doors that you can go on. It's kind of like Cameo for NIL, and you can say, "Hey, I really like that kid. I want to pay him $25 to promote my business." 50% of those emails are going unanswered. So there's money being left on the table by student athletes. So then what you run into, which, by the way, is still illegal in the NCAA, is your situation in Texas where you have a business owner saying, "Hey, I'll pay Graham $100,000 to come play football at Texas," and you know he does. That is somewhere where I really would like to see the NCAA step up and say, "No, that is still buying players. That is actually not allowed." And we need to get a hold of it. And you know, it's a situation that I would love to see at some point, Graham, where maybe we don't pay incoming freshmen NIL. And I would love to see something where the 363 institutions, as well as you know, some of our legislative officials can come together and stop doing one-offs for each state and figure out a regulatory body that works for all of NCAA Division I.
If anyone's smart enough to do it, it's you. You're very kind on that number, by the way. They have companies that evaluate student athletes' worth. I actually came in at $19.99.
Oh, nice.
A
Nice.
value, a discount. Last question, two-part again. What are your goals? Maybe, again, I know you have a lot of them, but first year and then say 5 years out, where would you like to be? And then what can the Indianapolis Kiwanis Club do to support you?
Yeah. No, thanks for the question. I mean, first of all, we had a fantastic fall season. Second in women's soccer, freshman of the year, who's from Fishers. We lost a heartbreaker in penalty kicks in the semifinal to the eventual champion of the league. Third in men's soccer. Our soccer coach, who we just extended to the men's side, has more wins in 2 seasons than the previous coach did in 7. And first time in the history of school making back-to-back playoffs. Cross country had the best finish ever at a regionals, only lost to the Big Ten. Swimming is doing really well. So my goal is to create a sustainable winning Division I athletics program, right? And that can mean a lot of different things, but I want to be competing for the Horizon League championship in every sport every year. You know, like I said, the expectation is for us to win. Also, our expectation is to have a higher GPA than the rest of the student body. You know, we are turning out students first, then athletes. We have to be better at fundraising, and we have to continue to bring in sponsors. And I think in 5 years, if we're fundraising over $500,000, if we're keeping 20 plus sponsorships and we're competing every year, I'm going to be really, really happy. From a community standpoint, we ask you all to come to games. I heard people talking before I got on the call about going to Butler games. And want everybody. I live at 57th in Illinois, so you know, Butler doing well is good for everybody. We want people to come to our games as well. Our women's team is going to be really good this year once we get healthy. We have a lot of work to do on our men's side. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. I want people to come to games. I also want us to win. We probably need to win first, then we'll get a lot of people to come to the games. But if you all want to come to games, just, you know, shoot me an email, give me a call. Happy to bring you out. The Coliseum, is a wonderful place. And for me, another big reason why I took this job, Mike Carroll used to drive my grandfather to work. He was a disabled veteran. My wife worked for Senator Lugar. I have been, you know, growing up here, I've come to all these events. I'm so lucky that every day I get to walk in the shadow of greatness within this institution. And for me, being at the Coliseum where the Pacers won the ABA championships, where the Beatles performed, all the different historical things that are so important in Indianapolis. You know, we owe it to the community to put on a great show, but also to attract a lot of people to come to the Coliseum. And, you know, that's what I ask, and we'd love to see you all there.
Well, I think, Kelly, maybe it's something we can talk about, but a Kiwanis outing to a basketball game this January, February would be great. Let's open it up. Let's open it up to questions from the group. Either chime in or put them in the chat here. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, Graham. Oh, well, I just thought maybe it could work both ways. We could help him, and he can help promote what we do, because there's so many kids that might aspire to going to Indianapolis and to his campus, and whether they are in sports or not, it's a win-win all the way around. Helping Kiwanis and we helping him with his promotion.
We would love to partner. That's one of the reasons why we have Ed on the call today. You know, we have a huge social media following, so you know, any way we can co-brand or co-promote, we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
Luke, it's Mary. If you've got students who are academically not where they need to be, do you provide the tutoring? Is that part of the athletic budget, or is that on the kids to do on their own?
So we have an academics team. So each team has an advisor. They help. It depends on the topic of whether or not we're able to supply the tutor. Like, we'll go out and help them find it. But this year we had a student athlete that was having some problems in an advanced chemistry class. So we had to go find some additional tutors to help. But we found out, Mary, in a lot of world, if we leave it up to the 18 to 22-year-olds, probably not going to go find it. So we help them as much as we can.
Thanks.
I've got a question for you. Luke, regarding playing fields. I know basketball at the Coliseum is a beautiful facility. That's where I saw George McGinnis first play during his early ABA years. Is there a possibility that the campus could afford and put together on site on the campus some facilities for all the sports? I don't know.
Yes.
NIFs used to have volleyball facilities as well as swimming. I don't know what else is all involved there now, but give us the explanation where the
Yes.
sport happen.
So I can't go into a ton of specifics. IBJ did a great piece on this. We are scheduled to begin. We are scheduled to get funds for a new arena in the summer of 25 or 24. Excuse me, summer of 24. So next summer. So there'll be a lot more information coming out about it. But a basketball volleyball facility right outside where the old tennis center was. Fully funded, and we're looking forward to that being up and running. And as I told Graham, I can't say much about it, but it was probably the biggest selling point of me coming to here was the opportunity to have something like that come up. So
Cool. Thank you.
thank you.
Probably have time for one more question.
Duke.
I have a question. Is there a program across the country that you've studied you'd like to emulate for your program 5 or 10 years down the road?
Yeah, Grand Canyon. They're one that is kind of from a student involvement standpoint. They average a ton of fans now. They have Dan Marley was their coach. They had a AD kind of similar background to me that kind of put more into fan engagement that he did on the court than on the court really happened. So that would be one from that viewpoint. Another former athletic director has been helpful to me. But really from our department standpoint, Northern Kentucky, Wright State, they have just done really well in basketball, and really doing well in basketball has allowed them to do well in other sports. And I think sometimes we get too focused on comparing ourselves to, I hear the IU Indianapolis comparison to Missouri, or I hear the IU Indianapolis comparison to some of these other schools. I think some of these smaller regional campuses are what our comparison is like. And frankly, Duke, in 5 years, to kind of go where you want to, Graham, I want people to, when they talk about Indiana State and they talk about Valpo and Evansville, I want us to be in that 4 as well. Talking about IU Indianapolis winning with Indiana kids, putting on a great show, playing really hard. Right now those programs are here and we're here. In shorter time, we're all going to be at the same level, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, Luke, I know how busy you are. I can't thank you enough for joining us. And as a friend, I very, very proud of you. Again, one of the things this year that's made me extremely happy for somebody in my network. And congratulations. I'm going to turn it back over to Mary to close.
Thank you.
Luke, as a fellow North Central Panther, thank you so much for being here today. See, Art is too. There you go.
We're everywhere.
And Kaveen, yes, thank you very much. We are going to make a donation in your honor to 100 Black Men in Indianapolis, which provides mentoring, education, and leadership development to local youth through the motto, "What you see is what you'll be." Thank you so much. This has just been wonderful. And if all of your leadership spreads out to all of the people who work for you, with your energy, you'll be tops in no time. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Our
Thank you.
next Zoom meeting is in January the 11th, and we'll hear about the NIT championships. So between now and then, thank you everyone. Have a great day and season's greetings.